All right, we are live.
We are live, so
What's
let's get on
up?
here and let's get our share on.
All righty.
Go ahead and share these bad boys to our platforms, which is great. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone that is coming in. Hey, Steven, how are you doing this evening, good sir?
What is going on? Hold on, let me share this.
Make sure all this is working for us. Hey, Megan. Megan is in the room.
See Bree, how you doing?
Hello, hello.
Oh my God! Hi, beautiful people.
You guys share on their pages.
You put a lot of extra on that.
My bad, but I had to put some stank on it.
Well,
Be mad at me.
Don't
be mad because you ain't fresh, bro. You need more cocoa butter in your hair and your beard, bro.
I think.
I mean, I feel like I have almond oils and all kinds of other stuff because I buy some good beard oil products. But don't come for me.
They don't. My bad. My beard is looking scraggly. It's getting very terroristic. I gotta fix that as soon as possible.
Bree is in the room. Give it a couple more seconds so everyone can get in and get comfortable and get seated and be prepared to interact in the comment section, which would be good. Ooh, Steven puts hemp balm in his beard. You know what, Steven? I got some hemp lip balm.
Hemp balm.
Which is very relaxing.
I don't trust that or CBD products. I feel like the day I do it, something gonna happen, and they're gonna be like, "You out here smoking weed," and I ain't never done that. So
listen, I'm going to extra.
I got trust issues. What can I say?
I am biohacking over here.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, thanks for tuning in to We Are Not Okay, the show on the Facebook where we talk about all topics that we are not okay with. Okay, so you might see some familiar faces, and it's like, why is Jessica talking so much? Well, today I'm humbled to be your moderator for this evening. We got about 58 minutes worth of content that we want to talk about, and then I'll let the team introduce themselves. Let's start with Miss Drea. Hey, Carl.
Hello. Always coming from Jacksonville, North Carolina. Excited to talk about the topics we have tonight. So excited! Can't wait to discuss.
Awesome. All right, let's go over to Fast King Pharaoh.
Hi, it's your boy, the Fast King Pharaoh with the Fast King Pharaoh. I don't know why I'm doing my own intro in this show, but I'm here and I'm happy, so it's really awesome to be here with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, good sir. Mr. JD, how are you?
Hello. Hello, everyone. Coming to you from Columbus, Ohio, and let me say thank you to Jess for stepping in because DJ, as you can see, is not on because he's got some exciting things happening in the background he's trying to get ready for, and at the end of the day we all got jobs, so from time to time you don't miss the
gainful employment is painful. Oh my God, I want to self-actualize.
This is very true. And again, our fearless leader Ty is going to be in the comments as well. So let's go ahead and get into the topics that we have today. So our first topic comes from a story that released about, I'm going to say maybe a week and a half ago, and we're referring to the very, very young kid that was shot and killed by a man that was, allegedly, apparently on drugs, and the narrative behind that story. So let's go ahead and open it up. So we're talking about canon and just overall what has transpired from, the terminology of when a hashtag is created with say her name or say his name and what's out there right now. So let's go ahead and just start with Fast King Pharaoh. So what are your thoughts? How are you feeling about what's going on right now so far, good sir?
Well, I will. Let me preface this by saying I was introduced to this story because I don't have cable television. I get all my news like everybody else: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. So as I received the information, what I was told initially was a black man walked up into a yard where two children were playing. He put the gun up to a small white child's head, and probably mentioned something about Black Lives Matter and then killed the child in front of his little sister. That's what I was told. That's what the media told me initially. I'm like, that's absolutely horrific. But I see all these other people who are coming in and they're all saying that we need justice. Where's where the Black Lives Matter protesters? Where are the black people why aren't they saying that this isn't okay? And I was like, that doesn't seem right. So I wanted to read a little bit more. It hasn't come out yet. It's still very much alleged. But apparently, his name is Darius Sessions. He actually knows the child's father. They're very well acquainted. And he went over there to go smoke weed with the father. And apparently, there was an altercation and the child was hit as a result of the altercation. It wasn't an execution that was done in the name of Black Lives Matter. My question is, everyone's screaming for justice for this child, right? But
Right.
no one is justifying Darius's actions. He killed a child. You go to jail forever. That's perfectly fine. We're all okay with that. But everyone seems to think, it's like, why isn't Black Lives Matter saying anything? And the reason why I feel we're not saying anything is because that's what's supposed to happen. When you take someone's life, you go to jail. The only thing that we've ever asked for was accountability. We didn't ask for anything else. There's so much more that we need to be focused on in terms of prison reform, drug reform, social work. We need to rebuild the Black community, not even rebuild, build it from the ground up. Because every time we tried to build it, it's gotten burned to the ground. All we ask for is that if you take one of our lives, there must be some accountability. This man, they caught him within hours. They immediately put him in jail and they denied him bail. He doesn't own a car. He got away on a bike, like an actual bike.
Yeah.
He's not a flight risk, but they still denied him bail. No one is saying, hey, that's not right. We're perfectly fine with him staying in jail, even though this is a country where you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But we're not arguing with, no one is saying that this man was right in his actions, but suddenly it is as if, oh, Black people aren't saying anything, it must be okay to go and kill white children. That's a problem for me. Sorry, I ranted. It's very angry about this.
You're good. Drea, what are your thoughts?
I definitely agree with everything you're saying. Preface this by saying, what happened to that child is horrific and no parent should ever have to go through something like that. But comparing that situation to the George Floyd situation, it's two separate cases. I saw a picture circulating of him, of the child, and saying "White Lives Matter," and it always seems like there is a misunderstanding of what the Black Lives Matter movement is about. It's talking about preventing police brutality, having equal justice, allowing the justice system to work for Black individuals instead of police being judge, jury, and executioner, and all these wrongful deaths that are happening and no one is held accountable. Like, Pharaoh said, they arrested Darius Sessions and he went to jail. He was denied bond. He was caught. He is being held accountable for his actions, and no one from Black Lives Matter is saying no, he should be free on the streets. I think that is a narrative of the people who want to bring misunderstanding and discontent to the tag of Black Lives Matter. That's their agenda. So no matter what situation happens, like it could have been someone else killed, not a child, and they would have still used this example. Well, where's Black Lives Matter? It also highlights an important point that Black people are always going to be the ones that have to stand up for every single issue that's happening in the world right now. So like a dog could have been killed and they would have been like, where's Black Lives Matter? Or, a squirrel, Black Lives Matter isn't there. And it's like, do your own work. We're trying to do stuff for us. And but the thing about it is when this happened, Black Lives Matter were saying, this is wrong. This is terrible. They mentioned it. So I feel like the people who are, posting the, Cannon's picture with White Lives Matter, we're trying to, just continue that misunderstanding of what this movement is for. And no one from the Black Lives Matter is saying, this was a good situation to kill the white kid. No, that was horrific. And like I said, nothing like that should ever happen. But that person who killed him has been held accountable.
Absolutely.
there's a misunderstanding. They know exactly what we mean when we say Black Lives Matter. Those people are just looking for a reason to justify the racism. That's from Coop to Bill.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Absolutely.
for that. JD, what are your thoughts?
You know, this one was tough, right? So I hear what happens to this child, and you know, I'm a father of a 5-year-old, so that hits home for me. And what happened to this child, no parent should ever have to go through. So like my heart legitimately hurts for this family, because I couldn't even imagine if that was Brady. But what upsets me and what makes this situation so tough is we literally took this child and we basically used him. People tried to use him as a pawn to further our agenda, right? And the first thing that happened was, let's take everything that, you know, the BIPOC community typically does when they're denied justice, and we're going to do the same thing. So when I kept seeing the hashtag justice for Cannon, I struggled with that, because I'm like, well, the guy got arrested in less than 24 hours. He's in jail. He got denied bond. I hope he rots there. And if they're in a state where, you know, they do lethal injection or whatever, like, I'm totally cool with that. Like, this person is a despicable human being that should not exist on this earth. That's just how I feel about that. But when we say justice for Cannon, like, justice was served. Like, how long has it been since Breonna Taylor's murderers have gone free?
50 days.
Right? And that's why there's a justice for Breonna, because that still hasn't happened. Like, there would be no need for, you know, justice for Breonna or what happened with Ahmaud Arbery if we actually got justice when it was supposed to happen. And if you notice, we talk about Ahmaud Arbery, but we don't say justice for him anymore because the men got arrested. We don't say justice for George Floyd anymore because the men got arrested. The whole purpose of that is to bring light to the situation. And I look on my Facebook feed and I see a lot of people are saying, well, you know what? If the roles were reversed, and most people know that I hate what if scenarios, if roles were reversed and this was a black child killed by a white person, it would be all over the mainstream media. Why is the media not picking up? That was the big kind of, you know, thing behind this. And for me, I was like, well, personally, I know, like, there's a lot of crime that continues to happen on a daily basis that we don't hear about. There was a child that was shot here in Columbus. You don't see that going crazy on the news. There was also another child that was shot right around the same time as Cannon, has a GoFundMe up as well. And at the time those two GoFundMes went up, one child had like 40, 50 grand in it. The other child had $1,500. So, I mean, like, these were two very similar style things that happened. And we see that, like, when we try to get behind something and push an agenda of division, of the agenda of trying to keep us divided so we can keep this racism, this hate continuing to push through our country, like, it just starts to spill into other things. Like, one of the things I saw today was what happened in Portland. So there was that protest in Portland. There was a Caucasian male that got, you know, beat up by a mob of protesters. They're all saying first is Antifa and then it's Black Lives Matter. They never get them straight. They just say it's both of them. And then people were like, well, if this was the other way around, if this was a black person that got beat by a white person, it would be all over the news. And I'm just like, that's where we're at right now. It's tit for tat for everything, right?
It makes me, that statement just makes me irritated, because it's like, I hate saying this phrase, like, I don't mean any offense by this, but like, some white people just want to be oppressed so bad. And it's like, black people are trying to get out of this. Like, we don't want to feel this way. So like, this tit for tat going back and forth. Well, if it was a white person, no, it all sucks. You don't want to be on this side. So it's just,
it's almost like a toddler seeking attention, but the attention that you want to gravitate towards yourself is harming so many different ways. Pharaoh, you were going to say something before I started. What were you going to say? Sorry.
No. It doesn't. I keep seeing that justice for Cannon hashtag trending, but it doesn't seem like they want justice. They just want us to shut up about Black lives not being worthless. They don't give a shit about this poor child. I don't like anything that harms children. I cannot wait for Ghislaine to spill the beans. Can't wait. I got a baseball bat ready. I don't like anything that harms children. even if the alleged scenario where the cannon was hit with a stray bullet, even if that's the case, I don't care. That dude can rot. He should never breathe free air again because he killed a child. It's over for you, buddy. You're gone. No one's gonna come to your defense. I don't understand what it is that they're trying to do, and I'm done trying to stand in the middle. There's enough Hodge twins. There's enough Candace Owens. I'm done. I right now what I want to see my people come together, and I want us to start demanding the promise that this country gave us, that we are American and that our lives mean something on this soil on which I was born. And right now I'm currently sad about. I'm not sad about my birth being here, but I'm sad about how my country is treating me and people who look like me.
Soren brings up a good. So the main argument I've seen is that this isn't on the news. Why aren't people writing for Cannon? It was all over Fox and CNN 24 hours later. And what would you want writing over? Because I know it isn't gun control. What are your thoughts? What do they want to see when it comes to a riot for Cannon? What would they want?
I don't know if it's a riot that they want. I think we want to protest your protests. We want the ability to say something because you've had the platform, you've had the news cycle, which we really haven't had the news cycle. The DNT in the White House has had the news cycle, like he's
dominating the news cycle
in the office. But I mean, like, for instance, if we really wanted to get justice, what about Lori Vallow, the mother that, moved to Hawaii? They were trying to find her 2 children. Every time they brought her to court, she said the children are fine. Like, this went on for months and months and months, and then they found both the kids' remains. Like, that happened, like, at the back half of really last year going into the beginning of this year. And that story's been buried pretty quick. But I remember seeing that because I was like, how do they continue to get away with this? Like, they're saying, produce the children, give us a video chat, give us something. The biological father wants to see them. And she just kept saying, they're good. And she went on about her life. And then once the remains were found, then everything hit the fan. Like,
there should have protests over that.
Like, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, where's the outrage over that? Because I don't remember it.
Yep. And I feel like they just want, like you said, they want to be anti to the protest that's going on. They want to silence the narrative that racism still exists. They believe that systemic racism isn't a thing. They don't believe that they don't believe that black people, minorities should have equal standing. They want to change the narrative, and so they want to say, like, see, this happens to Caucasian people just as much as black people, and that's kind of the narrative that you see with everything. Well, what about black on black crime? What about this? What about that?
Oh,
yeah. All these different issues to distract from the point. It's like, hey, there's no such thing as black on black crime. It's just crime because, like, normally we don't kill other black people because they're black. It's not a thing. It's just they don't like that person or something happened. And you know what happens to those individuals? They usually get arrested. So that's the thing.
they want the house niggers to shut up. Go back in the field. Stop talking. And no.
Yeah. That's a good, someone in the chat said cops kill white people too. And it's like, okay, that's still bad. Like, that's what we're all fighting for. Like,
none of this is good. All this is bad.
Well, usually the argument there is, well, police kill more white people than they do black people. And it's like, you absolutely are correct, because there are more white people that are out there. So the numbers are going to be there. But proportions is what we've been talking about. But nice job deflecting away from it with numbers, because we can manipulate them any way we want.
Let's bring in some of these comments real quick. So a comment came in from Jennifer. I just want to make sure that we're able to get that in there. So thank you. So anyone who kills someone should rot in prison, regardless of color, race, creed, religion. No protesting needed. Thank you, Jennifer, for that comment. Let's go over to Bree. So Bree said, racist white people want to be the victim so they can pretend to overcome. They feel like black people have stake in the claim of oppression, and want the opportunity to claim the state and prove that they can do persecution better. That's deep. Martin says they only want an outrage now because it just so happens that a black man killed a white boy, all while this murder wasn't done out of racism, but the murders of black people were.
And I just think they have a hard time seeing that distinction. Someone brought up a good point, with Cannon being compared to George Floyd. If you want to compare stories, you should compare children to children. So Tamar Rice, holding a gun and being killed by the police, in this situation. If you're going to compare something, maybe those two situations, they're still different, but comparing his situation to the George Floyd situation, they're two completely different topics, things that happen. And in both the Tamar Rice and George Floyd situation, it involved police officers. So still a distinct difference.
A lot of people are still upset about that funeral because, the amount of people that I hear when they try to compare, the gold casket comes into play like every time. I don't know if y'all pay attention to that, but when they go on their rants about this, no gold casket, no this, no that. I'm like, so like it's so much deeper than, just trying to protest my protest. And, I see where someone put in the comments around, Black Lives Matter in the way that it's portrayed. And it is like, we understand that it's portrayed as a terrorist organization. Like Steven Crowder did a Change My Mind. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization, right? But here's the thing that I would challenge people to think about with like any of these protests that happen, right? So if a white nationalist group, alt-right group, they do all the paperwork and they have their right to free assembly and they go protest, can I go and infiltrate their protest? No, it's not going to happen because I don't look like them. So I'm not going to be able to infiltrate their protest. I can go there and I could counter protest. It's probably not going to work out well for me unless I got significant numbers, but I could do that. But if there's ever a protest with people of color, can people easily infiltrate those protests? Absolutely. And we've seen that happen since the first protest that happened with George Floyd. And it's all in this ploy to delegitimize the movement. Like, it's a consistent theme around this. And then it just ends up becoming layers. So the first layer is delegitimizing the movement. The second layer is all this apples to oranges comparisons of killings to try to continue to divide the American people. And sadly enough, it's working to a fact, which is
absolutely.
I think when we go back and just focusing on the subject that we came with Cannon and understanding the severity that a child is gone, a sister lost a brother, mom and dad lost their son, and then a man is going to be in prison, for life, and knowing that people. And knowing that people are trying to change the narrative and not see what justice is and has been served, and the police actually did their job.
Yeah,
like
this is what's supposed to happen.
Their job. That's what's supposed to happen. And I think that's where the disconnect is when it comes down to understanding. Say her name. Say his name. That we mentioned earlier. And I think, Drea, you said it earlier too. Actually, I'll stop there. Drea, what were you going to say?
Oh, nothing. I was just listening.
Oh, okay. So when we think of if we're comparing children to children and what's happening, JD, I remember us talking I think it was maybe day before yesterday, and that even if you type in Google, what did you type in Google? It was 5-year-old killing.
Oh, no. I was trying to look for the other, the African-American 5-year-old that was killed. And it doesn't matter what color you type in, Cannon's pops up. So anything that has 5-year-old in it, Cannon pops up.
It angers me that they are heartlessly just using a child just to get the niggers to shut up. This is a big problem for me. And I'm shocked but not surprised. Right now, currently, the current demographics for the United States of America, 60% of the population are white, and that doesn't include the white Hispanics, which is also considered in the census. But I guess what they're feeling is shaky ground because right now there's going to be such a backlash over what Trump has been doing that they're afraid of losing majority power. They're afraid of losing majority say, because even though they are 60%, there is a large portion of them. I don't know what portion that is. There's a large portion of them they're like, yeah, Black lives aren't worthless. Like, these are also fellow Americans. So they're there with us. So they're right now there. I expect them to use every dirty trick in the book. I don't see them as being above using a child to further their agenda of racism and hate. I'm watching Steven Crowder and in his last change my mind because like I said before, I love to punish myself because when I'm having a good day, it's like, how can I make myself feel worse because it's 2020? Oh, I know. I'll go watch Steven Crowder, make Black people be terrorists. So that's what I decided to do this morning. And I'm watching him in the very first, as soon as the video starts, he's getting into an argument with, obviously, it is a homeless person who they're messed up. They're mentally deranged, and he's yelling about how he's going to place a curse on them and how white women are the devil. He's insane. He's obviously there's something wrong, and he offers no preface. He makes it look as if this guy, this is what Black Lives Matter is. They're going to place curses on us, and he's sitting there. He's like, we need to defend innocent white women from the dangers of these deranged Black Lives Matter protesters. That's a homeless dude that they decided to put on camera, and he offered no preface. Like, that guy obviously was just some dude who was like, I don't know, eating crackers over in the gutter 5 seconds ago because his shirt is dirty. It's torn. You can see his hair is unkept. He's got a lot of stuff in it. There's something wrong. And he's like, no, this is what Black Lives Matter looks like. And I see the rhetoric. So they're just like, what they're trying to do is it's open war. I've seen it on Reddit where they're described there was a Reddit post where they were talking about it. And they're like, it's open season on white people. White people, get your guns, get your bullets, get prepared because Black Lives Matter is coming for your children. It's just like, what? No, we're not. We're just trying to make cops accountable. Nobody's coming for your children. I don't have time for that. I have a 9-to-5 job. I'm busy. I'm not out here trying to kill innocent children. No one is. This is insane. But we need to be prepared.
Yeah,
we need to be prepared.
Part of their agenda to stigmatize the Black Lives Matter movement so that people stop paying attention to it, stop trying to get discrimination bills and other laws passed. This is their argument that these come from a terrorist organization and we will not give up our country to terrorists. And all we're asking is for basic rights, equality.
I'm gonna
kill us, go to jail.
Just to not put a bow on it because it's a tough topic, but just understanding that when we look at say his name versus say their name, looking at the differences between it, like we want to make sure the reason why we're saying people's name is because the people that killed them are still free. And I want to be very, very clear on that because a lot of people are misusing this hashtag for this purpose with canon. And again, justice has been served for that. I want to switch gears and talk about, the recent news that has developed about a week ago now. So we have a vice president candidate on the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, and just the information that has flooded our timelines in regards to her being Black, her being, Indian, her not being Black or not having, any slave roots or whatever the case may be. And so I posed the question, as someone that runs in a very powerful position, and if they are mixed race, why do we always jump to they only can choose one part of themselves? And then how does colorism play into that as well? So JD, we'll start with you.
So, I mean, again, it's another tactic. And listen, in the Black community, we have enough, colorism that we deal with on our own, right? And I think, people have gotten slick with that, and they've pretty much essentially weaponized it because I would say if you look at, the parties, right? you got one party that's pretty galvanized behind who they're going for, and then we continue to have kind of some types of dissension. So when I saw she was first picked, I saw a lot of people going, I'm voting for Joe Jorgensen, right? Which kind of blew my mind. Like, we didn't even get to a debate, and that's where our minds went. And then just seeing the amount of stuff about her that she's not Black, it bothers me. I struggle with why that's the talking point, right? Like, I totally get where people want to criticize her for the amount of African Americans she prosecuted when she was in California, which, by the way, was kind of her job. So, like, if she prosecuted a lot of people and put a lot of people away, I know it's bad that it may have been a lot of African American people, but wouldn't that mean that she did her job and did it well? But we got to put media spins on it. So I can deal with that criticism, but the criticism of like her background and what her parents are, whether that makes her a viable candidate or whether that means that she can speak to the Black community or not, I think is kind of utterly ridiculous. And I think it's just something that does really well at grabbing the headline, getting people to talk, and then again can cause more dissension.
I think it plays into the tactic of continuing to pit us against each other and trying to fit Black people into one little square box, and not realizing that there are several different types of Black individuals. Like, there are nerdy Blacks, there are emo Blacks, there are different types of people. And so, because she's lighter skinned, she's biracial, she's West Indian and Jamaican, some people are coming up in their mind that she's not Black enough. And this is something I've heard about myself, like, oh, you're not Black enough because you don't talk a certain way, or you're not Black enough. And I'm like, my skin, I'm Black. Like, there's no other way for me to identify. So it's been a harmful trope that's been in our own community, and people outside of our community are trying to take that narrative. And they did the same thing with President Obama with, his parent, one is white, one is Black, he's biracial, he's not really Black. And I'm like, if you see someone walking on the street with melanated skin color, a lot of people's first inclination is like, oh, that person is Black. So this whole diving into their history, saying they're not Black enough. Back in the day, all it took was a look, and that you were Black. So it's like we're picking and choosing, like which one are we going by now? Like, it's a little confusing, and I think it's a very dumb tactic. And the colorism within our own community, with light skins being against dark skins, and everyone always wanted to date the light skins because they were lighter and prettier, and dark skins were not. And it's just a harmful mindset, because that is not true at all.
Farrell, before you respond, thank you for pulling that up. So Megan says it's the idea of minimizing her identity and experience, and attempt to invalidate her in every way. Yeah, Farrell, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna try and come up with a better term for this. I don't have one yet. There might be one out there already. I like to think of it as cultural self-esteem. Black Americans in particular have been racially pigeonholed to a point where we lack self-esteem. Like look at our argument, our protest right now. We're not protesting for extra special rights. We're protesting for basic humanity. We're not even asking to be treated as Americans. Just treat us as human beings. If you kill one of us, you have to go to jail. Like, that's the basic tenet that we're asking for, and they're mad at that. Black people, in particular, we have a problem with not being able to identify with someone who would be considered in power. So it's difficult for us to look at somebody like Kamala Harris and be like, she's one of us. She's on our side. She's going to have our best interests, because we're so sad. We're so dejected that we can't identify with her. We look at her and she's like, she's not Black enough for me. She doesn't pander to my taste. So because of that, I can't fuck with her. I see a major thing here. The Hodge twins were actually pointing out that she's a prosecutor, like all the Black people that she's put in jail. But I'm looking at her conviction record, and she dealt with violent crimes and gun convictions. She wasn't dealing with drugs. She was dealing with serious issues. I don't care what color you are. If you commit a violent crime, you go in the box. No. I don't want. This isn't a racial thing. You're not a good person. I don't want you living next to me. I don't want you hurting someone that I love, and I definitely don't want you hurting other Americans. She was dealing with violent criminals, and she did a lot of work for the LGBT community. She's fairly decent. The people that she was convicting deserve to be in jail. It's like, oh, free my nigga Pookie. No. Pookie killed 3 people. Pookie stays in the box. Don't let Pookie out. It's okay. It's cool, bro. So it's just, I see the problem is that we don't believe in ourselves, and we're happy to see literally anyone succeed in the system. That was the whole thing with OJ. OJ's a murderer, and everybody knew it. But just seeing anybody beat the system, huge win. Black people will take it. We're used to settling, and we need to stop.
JD?
I'm good. I said my piece.
Okay. All right.
Well,
I gotta talk a lot.
one last thing, going back to the colorism, how in our community we've been, placed light skin versus dark skin. That originated during slavery times, where the lighter skinned individuals, were considered house Negroes, and darker skin were out in the fields, and that's where that kind of separation has started. But it's up to us to kind of dead that and realize that we're all in this together, and we need to stop pitting ourselves against each other, because light skin, dark skin, we're all Black, and we all have the same issues. And now that's not to negate the fact that in various media, entertainment, things of that nature, darker skinned individuals are often not given the same opportunities because of the darker color of their skin. So that's not to negate that issue as well.
I think when we're looking at this, and Pharaoh, you brought up a point where some Black people can identify with her because they don't basically share a mixed race background, or they don't share, that particular way of life. And I saw in the comments earlier about parents. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Is that it? Yeah. So thank you, Jennifer. So I think that the reason her family and the ethnicity was even brought up was because it was told that her parents aren't U.S. citizens and came over here and had her here. So it's interesting that comes up, because unless you are Native American, you got here some way, somehow. And I think that's the issue when it comes down to seeing a person that has 2 different identities, and then you're forced to choose. And coming from me, like, she looks like somebody from my family. She looks like my sister, Erica. And Erica, her mother is white, and our dad is Black and Filipino. So it's hard where you try to explain to somebody that you have different, like, you're coming from a different world, but it's like, oh, well, you don't look that way, so you must be only one thing. So I think this is going to give us the opportunity to really understand, like, a lot of people have a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different things that are going to come up. And I think of, and someone can look it up for me, when I think of when interracial marriage was actually legal, because remember, it was illegal.
1967.
So 1967. So 1967, that's 2 years before my mother was born. My grandparents are still alive to remember that. My great-grandparents are still alive to remember that. So just to understand, this is something that is going to come up. And I think as Americans, we have to understand that you're going to see people that you're not going to be able to say, oh, they're this. I think National Geographic put out, it was a picture of somebody, it was a woman, but it was a picture of a woman, and it said the year, I think it was like 2030 or 2030 or something like that. And you didn't know what her background was. You didn't know. I mean, it was like, you don't even know. So you can't even understand that. I think the other problem is a lot of people only see Black people of what they see in the media. And they don't understand of Afro-Latina descent. They don't understand from West Indian descent. They don't understand that if you look at the world, if you look at the Olympics and see that majority of the Olympics and what people participate are of some type of African descent. So I think that's the problem that we get. Let's look at some of these comments here.
That Egypt is, in Africa, and they're just like, what?
Yeah.
We gotta work on that. Come on, public schools. We gotta work on that. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Can't be having that.
That's the other issue. Like when people think of Cleopatra, who comes to mind?
Elizabeth Taylor.
So the fact that everybody on this panel said Cleopatra is Elizabeth Taylor, and imagine what exposure people don't have if they don't study, if they're not getting that history when it comes to ancient Egyptians. So it's a trip. It's definitely a trip. So we have a fun fact that I like to read to y'all. So when we think of how mixtures happen and how people got to where they got to, the transatlantic slave trade was underway from 1500 to 1866. All right, so shipping more than 12 million African slaves across the world. Okay, of those slaves, only 10 million survived the dreaded Middle Passage. All right, so over 400 years, the majority of the slaves, 4.9 million, found their way to Brazil, where they suffered incredibly high mortality rates due to the terrible working conditions. And Brazil was also the last country to ban slavery in 1888. So when we think about this and we understand, like, a lot of ways that people got here was through the slave trade.
Yeah.
So when we think of Kamala and like what she brings to the table, not only does she bring hope, but she brings it to where she's representing for her entire family, not just for the Jamaican side, not just for the Indian side. She's representing Kamala, and I think that's the thing that we need to focus on and concentrate on. Who mentioned Barack Obama and his ancestry? Drea. So when this happened to Barack, and we went on, if you read a couple of his books, we ventured to his roots in Hawaii, his time in Chicago, and then with his father in, I forget the country in Africa.
I feel like he's Kenyan.
Kenyan?
Yes.
So what was the first thing that you saw when he was elected?
Oh, where's his birth certificate? Oh, is he Muslim? All of these like off the wall. It's just like,
it's so old. It's so
crazy.
boring.
They wanted a birth certificate produced, but I still can't find them taxes.
Where them taxes at, bro? Where them taxes at? I want to see them.
It's another argument to delegitimize someone. Like, oh, we can't trust them because they're not from this country, bro. Like you said, if you're not Native American, no one is originally from this country. You were brought here. So this idea that an immigrant can't come and do great things, like that goes against the whole philosophy of America. Like that was the American dream. You could come here and make a difference. So why are we calling out people for having different backgrounds? Like we should be celebrating that because that's the embodiment of the American dream.
For me, why Schoolhouse Rock and everything I learned growing up in elementary school was like America was this great melting pot of immigrants, and now like it's the worst thing in the world to be an immigrant. And some of our founding fathers, well, really all of them, immigrants. So like it just blows my mind that we are trying to take this woman's ethnicity into play, and we're not even taking it into play as like, oh, she's a Black woman, and let's talk all these bad things she associates with Black Lives Matter, what that is. It's like, she ain't Black enough. She ain't even Black. Y'all know she ain't Black? Like, they saying she Black, and it's going to go, like, in the history where we want an asterisk that says she's not really Black.
The Hodge twins actually did a video on that, like, I think, like, the moment they made the announcement, they were making fun of the fact that she's not even Black. Like, they're Blacker than her, and it's just like...
And then who qualifies to what is there a scale to say, okay,
yeah, you didn't know that?
You're a little bit Black and then you really, really Black. Like what scale comes with that. And just looking at the comments, from Hamilton, immigrants, we get the job done. Yes, absolutely. That's what we do. And when we think of just, again, actually, Kara, you said diversity should be a strength and a weakness. And that is so true, because when you think of cognitive diversity, when you think of background diversity, when you just think of the things that people bring to the table, like how sad would it be if we were all the same? Like that would be super, super stale for us to just think like, oh, this person looks like me, sounds like me, acts like me. Like the differences come together when we're able to share that. But I think where we're having the issue is that people, there's a fixed mindset to it. Let's get into some of these other comments that were up here just a bit.
I do want to mention there is a black test. You can actually buy it from the Sally Beauty Supply. You just take and you just swab your cheek, and it actually tells you your level of blackness and actually what weave to get. It's actually very nice.
I hate you.
I'm so sorry.
Do you think and I'm yeah, Bree brings up a great point. You encounter a member,
Okay.
They won't care how dark you are, they'll hate you.
Not even a little.
And I think that's the other part, where if we're in a car and if it's me and my sister and we're both in there and we look a certain way, we're both going to, get questions. So do you think that, I'm going to ask this question, feel free to respond or we can move forward, but do you think that because she is light skinned, she's more accepted to have the vote? Or if it was Stacey Abrams, would it be different?
I don't know. Listen, to be honest with you, if it was her, Stacey Abrams, something was going to come up about her color. And whether it's she's not black enough or she's too black, like there's never a perfect amount of blackness. Y'all know this, right? I mean, Beyonce gets a pass, I guess.
No,
she messed it up at the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. She messed it up at the Super Bowl. See, even I get it.
Did I miss something? See, this is why I need cable television.
So I don't think it matters who it was, because I'm like, okay, I see it was Harris, but what if he picked another, African American candidate? What would the problem been? It's always going to be a problem with melanated skin, unfortunately. Like it is weaponized at all times. Like, Hillary Clinton herself at one time said we were apex predators. So I mean, everyone, go back and look. She definitely called us that for sure. She said it. So I mean, it's always weaponized. So I don't think it matters who it would have been. It would have been some narrative that was pushed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I saw this comment actually in one of my other Black physician groups where they were talking about they highly believe that Stacey Abrams, not just the fact that she didn't have any, she was not that she wasn't qualified, she didn't have enough experience, but a lot of other things came into play. She was, darker skin. They would go after her for being a little bit overweight. She's single, not married. So there's like a lot of things that made her unqualified, where Kamala, has the experience, she's the more acceptable, representation. But I think the issues that no matter what is, one, she's biracial, and two, she is a woman. So there was going to be issues no matter what, because people are not ready for, a woman. Like, she's going to get the dumb comments that, how is she going to be able to take care of her family if she's vice president? And, is she going to be able to still cook for her family if she's, running the country? Like,
it's so stupid.
They know they're hitting up Boston Market.
Listen, for me, as a newly birthed political baby bird, I would, at this point in time, I will vote for a hot buttered piece of toast. I am terrified. Biden makes me uncomfortable. I'm a moderate voter, right? Biden makes me uncomfortable. Trump terrifies me. He absolutely terrifies me. you're not allowed to just go, we don't care what someone says anymore. As far as I know, and I could absolutely be wrong, I don't know how many people Hitler personally killed, but his words were enough to fuel a nation's hatred. Just the words were enough. I see the words that he uses. I hear how he describes the protesters. I hear how he describes Americans, and it is a severe problem that cannot be ignored. And the fact that I'm seeing so many of his supporters that they just don't care. They don't care. They're just like, nope, it doesn't matter what he does. That's my president. I'm going to vote for him no matter what. So so for me personally, I had to read up on her career, and it's an illustrious career. She's a very accomplished, very talented woman who put a lot of extremely dangerous people away. These weren't bogus drug convictions. These were violent crimes, and she had an 87% conviction rate. Yeah, I want that person. It was like, oh, she likes justice. I like justice too. I have a huge justice fetish. Yes, please. I like her. But like I said, it could have been Joe Biden in a can of Ensure. I don't care. I don't care. I need for us all to go out and vote, but I'm very happy that it is Kamala Harris. But I mean, that's just me though.
I think the other part is that even with her career and things that she has brought to the table, the conversation is about how she looks and her background. And if that's the only thing you can talk about, that's all you got.
We're done.
It's a very, very interesting ride come these next couple of months. So I wanna give us, final thoughts, because I know we got 9 minutes until part 3 of our DNC. And overall, there's a lot of different things going on with, mail ballots, going to the post office. But I would just say, from the 2 topics that we had today, what are your final thoughts? And what would you like to see going forward?
Ladies first.
So with the canon situation and individuals that are upset that Black Lives Matter isn't protesting out in the streets, why isn't Cannon's name? Justice for Cannon. Just the final thought I would echo is that Cannon is going to receive justice. His murderer has been brought to jail, not denied bond, things of that nature. So the justice system has worked in this case. It's 150 days since Breonna Taylor has been killed, and we still haven't seen any movement on her case. No one has been arrested. No justice has been served for her. George Floyd's, killers have been arrested. Some of them are released on bail. Some of, the main person is in jail. That's great. We're moving towards the ultimate goal of justice, but we as Black individuals have seen this happen before, where they get arrested, they get, charged with this, that, and the other. But then when it comes down to the trial, they get 2 months probation. So I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, but I'm still keeping my eye out on, that situation. And I just don't want people to get into this back and forth of like, Black Lives Matter doesn't care about white people and blah and blah. That's not the case at all. We love our allies. We are inclusive of everyone, but we're just trying to highlight that police brutality needs to stop, whether it's against Black individuals, white individuals, whomever. It needs to stop. So, yeah. And that's a good point. If you looked at recent news, there's a billboard of Breonna Taylor that was defaced with red paint in the middle of her forehead. So these are issues of why we're still protesting, and why Until Freedom is still protesting in Kentucky. So those are my final thoughts.
JD.
So when it comes to the Cannon situation, it still doesn't sit right with me, because that was a child that was a bright light that was lost way too early. So I'm never going to feel right about that. But what I will tell you is that I have some semblance of comfort. And that comfort is knowing that not only was his killer brought to justice swiftly. But let's be honest, if we know the criminal justice system in the United States, it will incarcerate an African-American man with no proof at all. Like, we know that will happen. So when we think about justice being served, like, my comfort comes from this person will never see the light of day again. Now, I would like to feel that same comfort for Breonna Taylor and for the other countless African Americans that were killed senselessly by either police or citizens that in some cases have gotten their charges, but we haven't gotten that justice just yet. And when we think about the justice system, there was really one major fail that they had that was highly televised, and that was O.J. Simpson. And even after that situation, they still got him years later. And it seems like they've been trying to make up for that mistake year after year after year with the over-incarceration of African-American people or people of color, the BIPOC community. So I get comfort knowing that his killer will never see the light of day, but I want to feel that same comfort with the rest of the victims. I want their families to have that comfort too. I believe we can get there. Unfortunately, it just takes us significantly longer and more loopholes to go through to make that happen.
Asking Farrah, what you got for us?
I'm with JD. This man will never ever breathe another breath of free American air for the rest of his what will probably be a very short existence. I'm perfectly fine with that. Every black person I know is perfectly fine with that. And I will personally break his knees if anything were to happen where he were to ever be free. No one condones what happened to that poor innocent child. If there is, and JD is right, if there's one thing that the criminal justice of America can do, it is definitely chew up and spit out a black man. And the one thing that you cannot do in this country is cause any harm to a white person. And I mean even just supposed harm. The Central Park Five, Emmett Till was only 70 years ago. That's not that much time period. You harm a white person, you are done. That is it for you. Justice will be served. So what I want is I want to disrobe and I want to show naked their villainy. Like, okay, stop playing, stop using ploys, say what you mean. Let's have it out so that the world can see what you are, because I want to make shame great again. I want to see people feel bad. Like, no, you should feel bad about what you said and about what you're doing. Steven Crowder shouldn't get to sleep comfortably. He should be uncomfortable trying to cover his Twitter feed. Like, no, that's not what I meant. No, I want to see that. It's not going to happen. It's a fantasy. It's a pipe dream. But no one is okay with children being hurt. Stop trying to use that as your ploy to get black people to shut up. It's not going to happen. I'm done.
All right. So I think one thing I would say is just like, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in on these topics. You know, we come hot and heavy when it comes to our Wednesday. We'll see y'all September 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. You know, tune in to the DNC, tune in to the RNC, get everything, get all the information, and continue to talk to everyone. Continue to just be that voice, and start sharing what you're learning from the show with the people that you know. You might change some minds, you might piss the people off, but at least you're expressing yourself. Until next time, y'all. Peace.
Bye.